Well, I'm joined now by John Besson, Professor of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Exeter. Hello, John. Great to see you again. As we've just seen from that last report, it's perhaps when we've lost our patience that we become the most innovative.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we're problem solvers. We're not passive consumers. If we've got something going wrong, we do something about it. So that creativity can start an innovation to happen. Whether it's a mum getting fed up with washing the nappies and saying there must be a better way, leading to disposable nappies, or I came across a wonderful one the other day, a Spitfire pilot couldn't see behind him, rather important if you're a fighter pilot, so he took the mirror out of his sports car and stuck it on the front. That's the start of innovation. You might then need someone professional to polish it up, but essentially that's the idea behind user-led innovation.
And looking at other organisations and seeing what they do as well, I guess, is extremely inspiring. But then there's also the point that might also be a distraction.
Yes, and clearly if you open your doors to everybody, you get all sorts of cranks coming in, you can't do anything useful. But I think the benefits far outweigh the risks these days. I think there's three very good reasons why it's worth opening up. The first is diversity, that actually you get different minds on your problems, different perspectives, and that's often very helpful. The second is, particularly when we talk about users, they don't just have armchair theories, they try stuff out, they experiment. So you've got a kind of huge research lab prototyping. And the third important thing is people who invent stuff, come up with their own ideas, usually invent it because they'll use it, so it will fit their world. And many companies have the problem, they come up with a wonderful product that nobody wants because it doesn't fit their world. So those three reasons, I think, would argue for opening up.
Absolutely, and that would suggest that the whole of business structure is going to change, because traditionally the R&D department was central to any big business, and you're suggesting that this might now not be the case going forward.
Very much so. I think we have to be clear that the idea of innovation, it was never one model fits everything. There are a lot of roads to Rome. But I think with this new world, the chance to take advantage of all the people that are out there and all their creativity is real. Something that disturbs me is a lot of organizations get the first part, oh, we should open up, but it's a kind of cosmetic thing. So they'll have a website which says, give us your ideas, but they do nothing with them. So the smart organization does change its structure to really work with those people, build a community and manage it.
And that's a very difficult thing to do, putting the consumer at front and centre of everything that you innovate. How can you ensure that is done successfully?
I think you've got to be a little humble. As I say, people aren't passive consumers, they have ideas, they are problem solvers. So it's about, the lovely phrase, co-creation. So it's not we'll do it for you or we'll just borrow a few of your ideas. Let's do it together.
And how central do you feel this is in terms of the success of future business if consumers aren't core and aren't at the centre of all future creativity?
I think businesses have to, and the smart ones already do, have to wake up to the fact that we're in a very different world now. There are very powerful enabling technologies. We can talk to companies now with the internet and various other channels. And we're in a world where we're much more about networks. So the idea of me being a passive consumer at the end just doesn't play anymore. I think people are increasingly doing it for themselves anyway. If you think of online communities, whether it's Mumsnet with all the sort of sharing of ideas and innovations in that world, or any of the thousands of user groups, people already do it.
If you look to the future and you think how close consumers are becoming essentially to the manufacturing process, can you see a point where business structure will change completely?
Yes, but I think it won't be a case of a direct replacement. Yes, in theory, what we have now with the Internet of Things and 3D printing, it's a bit like Star Trek, the replicator, whatever you think, you can create. Yes, you can, but probably you'd still want some help realizing your ideas. So I think there'll be a role for organizations to play as translators almost of your ideas into something workable.
Now, later on in the programme, we're going to be hearing from innovators at your Vienna conference with their top tips for the future. So might I ask what yours might be?
My three tips would be, first of all, open up. It's a much bigger world. No organization can say, all the smart people work for us. There's so many more out there. So open up to other companies, to other people, to users. I think the second thing there is going to be very much around engaging with them. My earlier point about cosmetics, that actually it's not enough just to have a website and say, give us your ideas. You've got to build a community, and that takes effort. It takes a different kind of structure, as we've discussed. And I think the third, and perhaps the most important thing for me, I'm a professor of innovation management, is it's a managed process. This isn't something that randomly happens. We do know a lot about how to enable innovation, how to create the conditions where value can be created. So actively managing innovation will be very important.
It's a very different future that we're looking at.
It's a very different future, yes.
For the time being, John Besant, thank you very much indeed.